remember about that 2019 game down there at Baylor and just your emotions, and how much did that really not only set the tone for that football season, but for the program for years to come?
I think the thing that I remember most is, you had a lot of young guys that was getting the opportunity to play that night, and just to see the excitement on their faces as they had that opportunity to step up and, obviously playing well. It's probably kind of like the thing that we experienced a couple of weeks back with the Red River Shootout. Things didn't quite happen the way we wanted to in the first half of the game. But I thought we came back, and, you kind of got a sense in the locker room at halftime that this game wasn't over and that guys were going to come back out and respond and be able to do their job.
Ryan Aber.
Yeah, Dennis. Just want to ask you about your guys. How do you feel like your group has progressed? Do you feel better about them now than you did early in the season? And what do you think about the prospects for their development over these next 3 games?
Do I think they're working hard? Yes, I think they're working extremely hard. Is there still areas that I think we need to improve upon? That answer is quite obviously yes. I do think, last year at this time, I think one of you guys had an article about us being number 5 in the country with dropping touchdowns. So I think we've improved upon that. So that's a plus. But I think, in all areas, there, whether it be the run game and making the competitive catches, I think, there's still areas that we need to grow on before it's all said and done.
And specifically, Mario Williams, how do you feel like he's progressed to this point and come along?
I think Mario's done a great job. I could credit some of his or a lot of his success to the guys in the room around him. Mike has some, significant amount of playing experience, and Jaden has been a guy that has gone through what he's going through coming in as a freshman, getting some playing time, and one of those guys that was highly sought after coming out of high school. So I think they've helped his transition into college.
Let's go to Jason Cruz.
Yeah, Dennis, what is, I know he's been out the last couple of games, so what has Mike Woods added to your room this season now that, we've gone through 9 games? I'm just curious, his veteran presence and the big playability, what he's added for you guys.
I'm not sure. I really didn't hear your question. What were you asking?
Try that again. Mike Woods, just what he's added to your room since he's joined the team.
I mean, he's added a lot of value. Once again, he's a guy that is been in a lot of wars and has played a lot of college football. So, I mean, there's some things, that go on in between the lines that he's able to help those guys with just from that veteran leadership standpoint alone. And then, obviously, with the success that he's had on the field and the competitive catches that, he's made and coming up in crucial situation in games, I think that's added, to our offense as a whole.
John Hoover.
Dennis, when you see a head coach change at a program like Baylor's gone through a handful of times the last few years, you tend to see a lot of change in identity, especially maybe in this case from Matt Rule to Dave Miranda. You might see a change in identity on defense. Do you see that? Does that show up from coach to coach, or is kind of Miranda building on what that foundation that Matt Rule seemed to lay down for the defense?
Well, I mean, I think Baylor, ever since I've come back into the Big 12 Conference, has been a team that, gives you problems defensively. With Coach Rule and his staff was there, they created some situations for us. And, Dave Miranda is probably one of the brightest defensive coaches, in not just college football, but in the game of football, period. And, he's going to have some wrinkles that will be a struggle for us as we go into this game Saturday, just like he did last year when we played him.
Dennis, is Jaden Hazelwood like where you need him to be now, and what's been the most different about him during this last month?
Jaden's been practicing hard and he's been competing. I think the biggest difference for him is, you see a level of consistency there. Is he where I need him to be? No, he's not even close to that, because I just, for as talented as he is as a player, the sky is the limit there. Now, do I think he's maximized a lot of his opportunities? Yes. But, I mean, is there still a ton of room for growth there with him? Yes.
What the week off do for you guys, just as a team, and seeing how you played against Texas Tech, if not your best game, certainly one of your best this season, how does that help you so-called for championship in November? Is that something you can feed off of as a team?
I think well, let me stop you there. It really wasn't a week off. We didn't have a game on Saturday. But I think what it did for the players mentally, it gave them a chance, to get a day to just kind of step away from football and reunite that fire that they have inside to enjoy playing with each other and enjoy the process of it. The lifting the weights, the running the routes, the practice. The day in and day out things that is not as so much the glorified fun part of football. I think it gave them a chance to get away from that. And I want to miss it for a second. And now, we've come back with a renewed energy as we started practice off this week. And, the guys, the emotional level and the intensity in practice has been there. So I think it came at a great time for us. And hopefully it will show the success as we finish out the season.
Jimmy Carlson?
Dennis, we saw a couple guys on social media post, I think Caleb went back to DC and thought Kennedy with something he killed with on a hunting trip or something. Did you guys encourage the players after the stretch that, you guys went through to maybe get away if they could? Or what was sort of the talk from coaches to players about that?
Well, to kind of give you a little rundown of the schedule last week, if they got their grades and everybody was academically in line, that Friday they were able to kind of get away that Friday and Saturday, and then everybody was back on Sunday. So I guess Kennedy took his weekend to go hunting, which, I guess it's hunting season, so that's what hunters do. So, but yeah, it did give them a chance to get away. Kind of going back to Mr. Patton's question, it kind of gave us a chance, too, to look at some of the things that we have done from an individual position standpoint and see what we need to improve upon with those first 9 games under our belt.
Barry?
Yeah, Dennis, how have you guys been affected by the change in quarterback 3 or 4 weeks ago?
At the end of the day, our job is to make whoever's calling the snap count right. So, you could put my 7-year-old son back there. We're going to play. So, we love all 3 of those dudes that take snaps there. With us, it's really not a matter of who's back there. Just whoever's back there, our job is to make them right. So that's the way we look at it.
James Hale?
Dennis, you talk so much about going against secondaries and how you guys have adjusted and doing things. Baylor runs that, they run that spur defense. They have a spur. They have the defensive backs. Talk about the matchup against their secondary.
Well, if I did that, they would have a GA sit here and go back and comb through that. So I won't answer that question. I will just say, we're aware of what they want to do defensively. And, they've had some success doing it in the past, and we'll see how it fares out this Saturday.
Dennis, it's aggression that leads teams to success. In November, it's no secret. Weather change, game's tighter, a lot more at stake. Do you like where you are offensively in terms of toughness, in terms of that aggression, or do you need to get to a different place to know you'll succeed?
Well, I think in anything you do in life, you never stay the same. So to answer your question, do I like where we are? I like where we are today. But tomorrow is going to have to, be turned up a notch. So I like the trend that our team is going right now. We're competing with each other every day out there on that practice field, and in order to be able to flick that light switch on Saturday, you gotta practice it, and you gotta do it, Monday through Friday. So I like the direction that we're at right now. But once again, each day brings a new challenge. And within that challenge, you have to be able to rise to that level. So,
Any more questions for Dennis? Okay, we've got one in the back.
Hi Dennis. Is there a difference between how you prepare your receivers for playing with Caleb to Spencer, or any kind of adjustments that they make?
there's not much difference, honestly. we're going to run the same plays. One guy's going to be a little bit taller throwing the ball than the other. So other than that, outside of that, there's not really much of a difference. We got to be in the spots that we're supposed to be when we're supposed to be there and make the catch when it's delivered.
Do you notice a difference? You've been here for a lot of Novembers now. Is there a difference that you notice from team to team? I mean, it's different personnel, different quarterbacks, but that championship November, do you notice something different in the players themselves when they get to this month?
I think I've noticed something different within this team throughout the whole year. It just didn't start this month. A lot has been said about, how we played, so far to this point. But, I would look at it in this standpoint. And we've had some great, and I've been a part of some great teams here. But, this team has been a team that has found a way, no matter how you look at it at the end of the day, to be successful and win football games. Where if we go back and we look at it, I got here in 2015. Not a lot of those teams could say they were able to do that game in and game out.
Let's go back to John Hoover.
Just wondering, sometimes you hear about players going through a sophomore slump for whatever reason. How's Marvin handled that second year of expectations and kind of evolved this season? We've seen kind of maybe his game has expanded a little bit lately.
I don't know that I would necessarily classify it as a sophomore slump. Marvin is, made some tremendous plays for us this season, and he's maximized, the majority of opportunities that that has come in front of him. I think our team is, for across the board a little bit more balanced. So, he's not necessarily asked to go out and be, quote unquote, the Michael Jordan of the offense. Or now you got guys that, he's got a supporting cast that step in and, are able to execute and make plays, and the ball is being spread out, which is putting more stress on defenses. Now they got to account for, 3 to 4 guys as opposed to one guy. So I don't necessarily know that I don't necessarily would think he would say it as or look at it as a sophomore slump. If you would ask him, I would assume that he would probably look at it as, hey, I'm doing and I'm contributing in every way I can to help us be successful as a team, as an offense, and doing my part.
He's really turned it on lately and has delivered more big plays. Is it correlate with the quarterback change? Can you put your finger on why those two things happen kind of simultaneously, or is there a direct correlation?
The only correlation I can give you is great players produce when it's time for great players to produce. Using that basketball analogy, you see in the fourth quarter, Jordan take the game over. Well, Marvin, in my opinion, is going to be a great player. At times he needs to, and when it calls for him to take over the game, and he's been able to execute and make those plays when that time comes. When everybody else around him is supporting cast, and everybody else is making plays, he's doing his role in other areas that don't necessarily always show up on the stat book.
Thanks, Vince.
Jason Kersey.
Dennis, on Tuesdays at this time of year, I think everybody's glued to the TV at night for the playoff rankings. Is that something you talk to your guys about at all? Do you encourage them to not watch it, or do you guys even pay attention to it?
I got to be honest with you. I don't know what they watch. I could tell you I don't watch it. At the end of the day, we talk to our guys about controlling the controllables. Where somebody sees you, that's not something that we can control. We can control how we practice, we can control how we prepare, and we can control how we play on Saturday. And, if we go out and we do and maximize everything we can control, which is winning that game, then at the end of the day, things should line up how they're supposed to line up.
Eric.
You arrived in 2015, or since you've been here, you've always had an experienced quarterback, a quarterback with experience. Last year, even Spencer had a redshirt year under him. What's impressed you the most about the way Caleb's just stepped in as a true freshman and really being able to grasp everything? And then that learning curve, I know it's still ongoing. What's it been like seeing him learn as weeks go on?
And this is going to be a bad analogy, but you asked the question, so I'm going to answer it. It's kind of like having a kid and watching them go out and do something for the first time. You, as a parent, it fills your heart with joy to see them, fulfill that task, whatever it may be. And with Spencer, I mean with Caleb, you know he's a kid that he wants to be the best at what he's doing. So, I mean, you see the things that you guys don't necessarily see of him coming in early, studying film, going to get with, some of the offensive linemen trying to figure out, okay, this is what y'all do, and trying to factor in how all of the pieces of the puzzle. So, I mean, you see in him put in all of that work. So, I mean, now it's almost to the point where, okay, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be doing this. I've put in enough work to where I know all of the answers to the test. This is easy. So to see, that smile on his face when he runs off the field and the smile on his face when he runs on the field, I mean, that confidence about him is just like, yeah, I got this. I mean, so as a person that's on the staff, a part of his career, I mean, you can't help but be overwhelmed with joy to see that.
Any more questions? We got one in the back row.
Coach, I know you said you don't pay attention to the playoff rankings at all, but knowing that the committee believes you guys are the 8th best team in the nation and knowing that you essentially control your destiny the rest of the way, what's the mentality looking like in the locker room?
Once again, I mean, our focus is not about what some committee thinks we are as a team. Our focus is about what we can control and who we are as a team. And, at the end of the day, if we win all of our games, they decide that we're not supposed to be there, then, that's on them. But the only thing that we can control is, we got to worry about winning the games. And if we don't take care of our end of the bargain, then it's, it's a moot point.
Oh, last one, Jason.
Speaking of Caleb and sort of his leadership, I wonder what you thought about when the dead period was going on and he organized that meeting. I think Jaleel came, the Sooner Summit thing. What did you guys as coaches think about that, and did that tell you anything about him?
Well, I mean, he had came down on a visit well before COVID had started, so I got a chance to meet him as a person. And, when you're in the room with somebody, you kind of pick up on a vibe on what type of person they are. And I mean, when he walked in the room, even as a 16, 17-year-old kid, he had a presence about himself. So I knew he had some leadership qualities. The first thing I thought about when someone mentioned that he was organizing and they were doing it, I was like, well, I hope Toby in compliance knows, because boy, there's going to be some phone calls over this one.